Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the MJ Innocent Podcast. I'm your host, Moonwalker Tanya. Okay, so a couple of days ago, one of my close friends in the MJ community sent me a TikTok video, and I was extremely disgusted because there was an MJ fan who did something very disrespectful, and I want everyone to be honest when we discuss this. You know, my friend and I had different views when it came to this topic. So, here we go. Apparently, a MJ fan was dancing on Tom Sneddon's grave, filmed it, and uploaded it to TikTok. Now, whether if you are religious or not, there isn't any judgment here. I'm not going to allow anyone to judge. But at the same time, I am a baptized Christian, and I expect the same respect. I do consider it very disrespectful. You know, I know Tom Sneddon was a bastard, and what he did to Michael was terrible, but that does not give MJ fans the right to dance on his grave. You know, and I don't know if this MJ fan is religious or not, but one day they will have to own up to it. And it just made me sick to my stomach, and of course my friend, you know, she and I were talking about it, and she was like, I understand, you know, but then I also made it very clear that Michael would not be happy if he knew that his fans were doing things like that. And my friend was like, even though Michael didn't like Tom Sneddon? Yeah, even though Michael didn't like Tom Sneddon, he still would not want his fans to do something so disrespectful. And I'll put it in another way. Back in 2020, when Martin Bashir had COVID, there were some fans, not all fans, but there were some fans who hoped that Bashir would die from the illness. First of all, there were people who actually died from COVID, and I would not wish that on anyone. And I don't want to see comments like that on this video. I don't care if it's an MJ hater. You don't wish that on anyone. It's evil. You know? And yes, what Martin Bashir did to Michael was terrible too. But if Michael was still alive back in 2020, which unfortunately he wasn't, but if he was, he would actually hope that Martin Bashir would make a full recovery. Because that's the kind of person Michael was. If you want to be mad at Tom Sneddon, or if you want to be mad at Martin Bashir and other people like Diane Sawyer, Dan Greed, Wade, James, Oprah, Adrian McManus, etc. I mean, you can do that, but that doesn't give you the right to do disrespectful things like say that they should die from an illness or dance on their grave. And to even make it worse, I remember back when Thon Lexi was defending Michael, there was one MJ fan who literally said that Wade and James's sons should be molested as punishment for what Wade and James are doing. And guess what? When I saw that comment, not only did I give it a thumbs down, but I literally told that MJ hater to shut the fuck up. And to never say stuff like that. Because that is disrespectful. Their sons have absolutely nothing to do with what Wade and James are doing. Yes, they are trying to use them as excuses. But they shouldn't be punished for what their fathers are doing. And last night, when I was thinking about what I was going to say in this video, I became extremely numb because I actually experienced a traumatic experience in a graveyard once. And to be honest, I really don't know if I've ever told anyone about this. But I think maybe to anyone who may think that it was okay for that fan to dance on Sneddon's grave, maybe this will help you understand why I have such an issue with it. Because it's not just because of my religious beliefs. Well, when I was 10, my class and I went on a field trip. And it was about a family that was brutally murdered in their home. And I don't know why a field trip like this would be appropriate for a bunch of 10-year-olds, but I don't know. But anyway, at the end of the trip, we actually visited the graveyard where the family was buried. I just remember that there were leaves everywhere. I think it was like late fall, maybe early winter when we went. I don't remember how the family was murdered, but I think it was just because of what happened at the graveyard. So why my teacher wanted us to do this, I don't know. I really wish he didn't, because this wouldn't have happened. So he wanted us to pick, I think there were 4 graves. He wanted us to pick one, put a piece of paper over the person's name, and take a crayon and, I guess, color on the paper to where the person's name would be the only part of the paper that wasn't covered with crayon. And so I picked a grave, and I was tracing. Everything was going well. But then 2 teachers snapped at me and told me to come over to them immediately. And so I did. I wasn't sure what the problem was, and I'm sorry. I'm just getting emotional just because unfortunately this is something that still traumatizes me to this day. Apparently, I was standing on the grave of the person I chose, and I did not know that that's what I was doing. Because I have seen graves where the grave is either before, like in front of the stone, and I've seen graves where the stone is in front and then the grave is behind it. So I thought the grave was behind the stone that I picked, but it wasn't. And I was so ashamed because the teachers snapped at me. They said I was being disrespectful to the person who was buried there, and I was also making God angry, and obviously as a Christian, it hit me badly. And I felt so guilty. I've only been to a graveyard maybe a few times ever since. I go to a different church now, but there was a church I went to previously where when you walk past the gate, there is a concrete walkway in front of you. And on both sides of the walkway was a graveyard of people who lived in the county. And every time when I would walk on that concrete walkway, I felt like I was going to lose my balance and collapse because of what happened when I was 10. And I was too afraid to tell anybody just because I didn't think anyone would understand. So every time when we would go to church, I would say, Don't look left or right. Just look forward and just keep walking. Keep walking. Keep walking. Don't turn your head. Don't look down. Just keep looking forward. And then when I lost a few relatives, we had to walk through a graveyard to their grave. And that memory popped into my head, and I was standing next to my cousin, and I said, "Can I hold on to your arm, because I just don't want to step anywhere where I'm not supposed to step." And my cousin guided me through the graveyard. And even to this day, I went to a graveyard a couple of years ago, and I prefer to stay on the blacktop, just because I know that no one's buried there, and I wouldn't unintentionally step on a grave. And I know eventually I have to forgive my teacher who traumatized me, but that was probably the worst thing that I've gone through elementary school. Because it still affects me even to this day. But the difference between what happened to me and this MJ fan is, what they did was intentional. I would never knowingly and intentionally stand on someone's grave or dance on someone's grave, because I know that's disrespectful. I know it makes God mad. And all I can say is, to the person whose grave I accidentally stepped on when I was 10, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to disrespect you. And all I can say is, to the fans who think that it's okay to dance on Tom Sneddon's grave, you have to remember that I'm just thankful that Michael's grave is protected, because we all know that unfortunately there are MJ haters who would dance on Michael's grave, and it would piss us off. So, just remember that it's not okay to do things like that. And I personally believe that Tom Sneddon is hopefully burning in hell. And that's good enough for me. So, I apologize for getting emotional in this video. Like I said, I think this is the first time I've ever talked about it. Thankfully, it doesn't traumatize me on an ongoing basis like other things do, but it usually only happens if something reminds me of a graveyard or something like that. You know, it's... But, yeah. Okay, so I just want to have an open discussion about this in the comments, you know, and, okay. It felt good to get it off my chest, and I just want you guys to know that I am okay. I'm just a very emotional person, and I do care about things. Sometimes people think I care too much, but yes, it is true that Tom Sneddon was a terrible person, but that doesn't give MJ fans the right to do terrible things in return. Alright guys, I love you, and I will see you in the comments, and hopefully I'll see you tonight on Teresa's live stream. It will be at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.